shall I go? What shall I do?
Frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn.
Behave yourselves!
Hello, YouTubers out there. This is Jerry Saravia at the movies. So, as I promised, I will be reviewing 3 Christmas movies. And the first one will be 1988's Scrooged, directed by Richard Donner, starring Bill Murray as a Scrooge-like character named Frank Cross, and Karen Allen, who plays Claire Phillips, his girlfriend. Now, this is a picture that when I first saw it many years back, I kind of liked what I saw, but I didn't really respond to it in any specific way. Certainly no emotional response. I just sort of, the picture's watchable. It's entertaining. Some of it is quite funny. Some gags kind of fall apart. The one where Frank Cross thinks that this waiter at a very expensive restaurant is on fire. Frank Cross picks up water from a container, throws it at him. He says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I thought you were Richard Pryor." Now, for some young people, they'll have no idea what the hell that joke means. They may not even know who the hell is Richard Pryor, which is really scary. Of course, he's a comedian, was an actor, and passed away a long time ago. But at one point, he was freebasing cocaine and set himself on fire. So it's not really a funny joke. It sort of just falls apart. But some stuff is quite funny. The problem with the movie, I think, which I still like, I think it is a good movie, and I'll tell you how I related to it emotionally in a second. What I do like, or where I have an issue first, is that Frank Cross just seems too arrogant, too stubborn, too angry, a lot of things that normally Scrooge or Scrooge McDuck don't normally feel quite that much anger. I mean, you could tell this guy is full of anger and yells at people. He shouts at people. He shouts and shouts and shouts. There's probably a little too much of that. It's not something I would, say this happens in other iterations of A Christmas Carol with Scrooge. I mean, Scrooge normally doesn't yell at people to this degree, certainly. So there's a lot of that, and they're having a live version broadcast of Christmas Carol with Buddy Hackett as Scrooge, and and at first he's saying, you're not really presenting. He sees the ads for the Scrooge. It's supposed to air live on Christmas Eve night, and he feels the executives have not really come up with an ad that really grabs people by their labels and says, "Hey, you got to watch this." So he has developed his own ad, and then the ad itself is, it's just insane. You have to see it to watch it. In many ways, the movie serves as a satire to a certain degree of television. And I think it does probably as good a job, if not better, than a movie that came out a year later, Crazy People, which dealt with television ads, but it's no different, really, but telling the truth in television ads. The problem I've always had with Crazy People is that it didn't take exploit its ideas far enough. When he sees Karen Allen, who plays Claire Phillips, and she goes to visit him because he had called her, or a ghost called her, actually, but you can see that there's a warmness, some warmth, some sincerity there. And, he's the kind of executive that tells it like it is. But he just yells too much. But when he's around Karen Allen, you could see the chemistry between the two. And then when the film really does pick up a lot, I think, with John Forsythe, who's the ghost of... was his former boss, so he's sort of in that the role of Marley, but in a very different way completely. And then he's visited by Carol Kane, who's the ghost of Christmas Present. David Johansen, formerly of New York Dolls, who is the ghost of Christmas Past. And those scenes are pretty funny. There's a dark scene, which I thought was really well handled, where he takes Frank to his childhood home, and the father arrives, and the father, played by Bill Murray's older brother, Brian Doyle Murray, says, "Here, Merry Christmas," and he drops it looks like a 2-pound bag of veal, because the guy works at a meat plant. He says he's got to learn, this 4-year-old, that you can't always get what you want. No choo-choo train for you. Those scenes were really well handled, I thought. I thought that was very well directed. It played into the very idea of somebody who once was a much more innocent person. And you could see the meanness of his father and where it came from. That played well into the Christmas Carol tradition. The Carol Kane stuff is, she keeps beating the hell out of him, punching him, hitting him with a toaster oven. Some of that may be a little too much for this rendition of A Christmas Carol. And it's still a little off-putting, but I have to admit, some of it did make me smile. So maybe it works in some odd way. The Ghost of Christmas Past, let's get back to that for a second. And the guy arrives in a taxi cab. I thought that was a neat little thing, sort of Ghostbusters-like. But anyway, he shows Frank how they first met, him and Claire. And she calls him Lumpy because he's lumpy. He gets a lump at some point, I guess, on his head because she opens the door and smacks him in the face, And let's go out for Chinese food, and you see a relationship that started to occur, and there was a warmth to it that I thought was really well handled. But both actors, Bill Murray and Karen Allen, have a certain kind of chemistry. I mean, I wish they had done more movies together. It's just one of those couples you wish you would see more often. And, Karen Allen has been reunited with Harrison Ford, usually in the same role, but it would have been nice to see another movie with Karen Allen and Bill Murray. I mean, that chemistry works. That love story does work. But what really got to me this time, watching it, this may be the 3rd or 4th time I've seen this movie, and it's been many years since I've seen it last. What really got to me was the ending. Bill Murray's Frank interrupts the live airing of A Christmas Carol. He's there on the soundstage, and he starts saying, Christmas should be like every day. Every day should be like Christmas. You should always want to help people and do this and that and the other. And it really got to me in a major way. I didn't really expect that. And maybe because I'm older, I start to relate a little bit more to someone like that, who can see that Christmas it shouldn't just be once a year. It should be every day, which I agree with. I think it should be. But, we don't live in that sort of culture. Really, nobody does. I mean, probably not even in Bethlehem. So, plus him relating to his younger brother, who still loves his older brother, still tries to have him come over for dinner every year, and he never arrives. And the relationship with Claire. And there's a dark scene, a very dark scene, I thought, which I've always remembered. He sees his future, where, of course, as usual, Frank or Scrooge, would see that he dies in the future. And usually it's a gravestone, but in this case, it's an actual coffin. Prior to that, he sees Claire in the future, where she is rich, elegantly dressed, and all this stuff, and poo-poos the orphans that are outside, or these young kids, these Oliver Twist type, children, and says, get them out of here, we're having dinner here, and that's what Lumpy always told me. And then she has a little tear, and she has all this white makeup on. It's just so striking visually. So there are many things to like, including Mary Lou Retton as Tiny Tim. I mean, there's some odd casting in this movie. Of course, Robert Mitchum as Preston, who is Frank's boss. He's always fantastic to watch. Then there's a cameo by Miles Davis. They are these guys who are performing outside of the studio, and everybody gives them a couple of bucks. I thought that was kind of funny. I also like it's very brief. Wendy Malick as Wendy Cross, and that is Frank's brother's wife, and she's appeared in a lot of things since then. But it was nice seeing her. It was nice seeing a lot of these people. Michael J. Pollard as this homeless guy, the smile on his face when he's frozen to death. There's a lot here, but I think Bill Murray overall, the transition he handles well, I think. But the meanness of the character, it's just too much, and a few years later he did Groundhog Day, where he also played a guy who was just a little sardonic more than anything else. But it wasn't quite as mean. Like, he didn't believe in Groundhog Day and everything else. It's just all BS to him. So it's not, that's really not a different movie from Scrooge. It's a better movie, but I like Scrooged overall. I wouldn't say I would return to this movie every year. I don't think I will. But it was nice to see it again after so many years, and I did relate emotionally at the end, which I never did before, to many of the things that Frank says. Bill Murray just carried it extremely well. I mean, it's the most emotional thing I think he's ever done. And he's not usually the emotional type of guy. You don't really see Bill Murray, except maybe in Lost in Translation. And even then, I mean, it was very moving. It's not something I always expect from Bill Murray that I recall. So anyway, check out Scrooge. Tell me what you think. Have you seen it? What do you think of Bill Murray in it? Where does it fall in your list of favorite or maybe not so favorite Scrooge adaptations or Christmas Carol adaptations? Let me know. And that's all I got to say about that. Thank you to all the new subscribers who have subscribed to my channel. I really appreciate it. I'm going to review 2 more movies this week, Christmas movies. For those who have subscribed to my channel, thank you. Just hit the notification bell for future uploads. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. I review movies all the time, and maybe some TV movies, TV shows, anything cinematically related for the most part, and cinematic topics. So hit subscribe. And that's all I got to say about Scrooged from 1988, directed by Richard Donner, starring Bill Murray. And I think I forgot to mention Bobcat Goldthwait also, who appears in the movie. And this is Jerry Saravia at the Movies, signing off.